Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. And today I want to talk about Cuba. And I want to talk about one of my fellow YouTubers, basically like a brother. Was the ring camera, like a brother. He is a Cuban, born in Cuba. This is Paul and Leah. Paul and Leah are Cuban descent. They moved here to this country just like I did. They were born in Cuba, and he's got an awesome channel, and you got to check him out. He opens packs with his daughter. He collects a lot of stuff. You can see some Cuban stuff, some boxing, some stuff, Duke for Dylan, and he's been doing videos for 3 years now. Go back and check him out. He's got an awesome collection. It's got great channel, and it's fast breaks and breakfast, and that's what he does. He does breaks during breakfast with his daughter, and he shows his collection. And she's awesome because she has a little thing that says boom on there and stuff. But anyway, the reason I'm giving him a big shout out is because he sent me something. Paul sent me something here, so I'm gonna go ahead and I've kind of cut it, but I haven't really looked into it. But here is the back, and this is what he sent me. Hey, bada bada. So let's take a good look at what Paul and Leah have sent me here. And I got some cards. Merry Christmas, Orlando. Wishing you and your family a joyous holiday season. Happy holidays to you and your family. Paul and Leah, fast breaks and breakfast. You gotta subscribe to them, guys. And what have they sent me here? That's a Cuban sandwich I see. My favorite. Love Cuban sandwiches. If you've never had a Cuban sandwich, guys, you gotta have it. It has ham, pork, Swiss cheese, some pickles. They put some mustard in there, and just a really good sandwich on a Cuban bread. So let's take a look at the Cuban sandwich that he sent me here. There it is. See some of that mustard and stuff in there. It's the Cuban sandwich. Restaurants in Florida began serving them because they served them in Cuba. And I want to talk a little bit about Cuba. Let's see what else he sent me here. Oh, wow. He sent me a Tony Oliva autograph. Wow, that is awesome. You know, I don't have these cards, Paul, because I don't collect a lot of modern stuff. But this is super nice. Look at that. Wow. Oh, look what he sent me too. He sent me a Caramelo Deportivo card. I was going to show some cards. He sent me a beautiful Caramelo Deportivo. This is a 1946, 47 Caramelo Deportivo. This is Charlie Kaiser. And he played for the Pittsburgh Crawfords in the United States. A lot of the black players had to play in Cuba because they couldn't play here. Oh, here's another great Cuban player, Omar Linares. And this is his Cuban card, Cuban rookie card, Omar Linares. This is a Cuban card. Made in Canada because they can't do things in Cuba like this anymore. Cuba has really, unfortunately, been destroyed. And I'll talk a little bit about that. If you want to hang on later in the video, I'll talk a little bit about that. And the other thing he sent me is, oh, wow, I've never seen this. A Martin Diego. Martin Diego playing with the Caracas, because he played in Venezuela. He played in a lot of places. And this I've never seen. Oh, it's a Venezuelan League card from Panini, made in Brazil. I've not seen those. And it's two stickers that go together to make Martin Diego. Oh, that is awesome, Paul. I really appreciate all the stuff. Great Cuban stuff he sent me. I'm gonna put that here with the Cuban sandwich. See that right there? And I'm gonna go ahead and put the Cuban card. And I'm going to show some more Cuban cards here in honor of Paul. And so, you know, one of the best players in Cuba, you know, was Minnie Minoso. And he played a few years in Cuba before he finally came to this country. So I'm just going to flash some Minnie Minoso cards here. This is a 63. That's a 61 autograph. I picked that up at the last show with a beautiful autograph from Minoso there. This is the 60 Minoso. And Minnie, you know, again, came to this country, had to learn English and had to deal with all of the Negro League stuff, or being a black in this country, which was totally different from Cuba. In Cuba, you know, the blacks and whites were together, and this is a 58. So there wasn't really, a lot of these players didn't face racism until they got to this country, and that's the 57 Minoso. And they had to deal with a lot. I mean, Jackie Robinson dealt with a lot of stuff, but players like Minoso had to deal with not only the culture shock, but the language barrier and so on and so on. And this is the rarest Minoso I have, and I showed that at the last video. And this is the 46-47 Caramelo Deportivo, which is the year after this one that he had sent me. So that's that one. I'll go ahead and put that one over here. We'll leave that there. And so I just wanted to share some of my Cuban cards. I didn't know he was going to send me a Caramelo Deportivo, but this is another one here. This is the Dick Sizzler. That's George Sizzler's son that he played also in the majors. And that's the Dick Sizzler. Because a lot of American players ended up playing in Cuba. I mean, they went way back when, and I showed this earlier, way back when, in 1909, the Cuban players started playing with the Americans. And the Detroit team came to play, and this is the oldest Cuban card that I have, and I think this is the oldest Cuban card made, the 1909 Cabanas. As far as my research goes, I don't know of anything older printed in Cuba, and this basically came in the Cabanas cigarettes, and it says it back there. It says, you know, that smoking the cigarettes, Cabanas cigarettes. And that's my Armando Marsans. This is when he was in Cuba for the Almendares team, and this is when Marsans came to play in the United States with the Cincinnati team, with the Reds. And this is the 1912. And it says here, the first native-born Cuban to break into the major leagues are Armando Marsans and Rafael Almeida. And there were some great players in Cuba, but they were black. The black players couldn't play here. And a couple more cards. These are the Propaganda Banditos, again printed in Cuba. These are all paper-thin cards. And, you know, you can just take a look at them here. And there's a lot of awesome players in this set, including players like Stan Musial rookie card and stuff like that. And this is the Victoria's cards, a sample of that one. Rough shape, but it's a pretty rare card. This from 1952. And again, do you think these were given out in it says the stadium, in the stadium of Havana, I guess. Don't know too much about the history of these, but these are some old cards that were actually printed in Cuba of Cuban players. So I want to thank Fast Breaks and Breakfast, Paul and Leah, for sending me the card and just going through that. And, you know, going through some of the stuff that, I'm going to move this out of the way. Just kind of slide it over, because I wanted to talk about baseball, and I did. Talked about baseball cards. If you guys want to hang out a little bit, I just want to talk a little bit about Cuba and what happened in Cuba, a little history of Cuba. And if not, you know, thanks for looking at the cards, and I really, really appreciate it. And just thank you so much, guys. It's just incredible, the friendships that have been developed here, and to find a fellow Cuban collector that really collects a lot of Cuban stuff is just awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about Cuba. This is a huge book that I got at the Goodwill. This came from the Army. And there it says on there. The library at the Army. But it's an old book. Last checked out in 1985. But the reason I want to show this is, it shows a little bit of history about Cuba. And what happened in Cuba is stuff that's happening all over the world. And that socialism and communism are taking over in many places, like Nicaragua and Venezuela and in Colombia, and those are becoming a little more communist countries, socialist countries. And when Cuba was first discovered, really at the similar time as the United States. Let's see if I can put this a little bit higher here, give you guys a good shot. Because the British discovered Cuba, and they were the property of the British for many, many years until they were able to become free. And it took a lot of years of fighting in Cuba and civil wars and stuff. But the British commanders were the first ones that really were in charge, and they took over Britain. And then later in the Cuba, and then later in the years, this is the Havana market back in the 18th century. So this was back in 1762 that the British landed in Cuba. You see all the ships there and stuff like that. And over the years, the Spanish took over, and then they were a property of Spain. And then there were United States presidents that tried to buy Cuba. And here they are, 4 U.S. presidents tried to buy Cuba: Polk, Buchanan, Grant, and McKinley. Way back in 1845, all the way up to 1901, they tried to buy Cuba, but they couldn't. And thank God they couldn't, because Cuba remained free, a free country, free elections. These were some of Cuba's presidents. Cuba had, black presidents and white presidents. And then Jose Marti came in. And Jose Marti was educated in New York, and he really freed this country, and he helped, become a free country along with a lot of, Roosevelt, that freed the United States from British and from Spain rule. And then back in 1898, the U.S. flag was raised over Santiago de Cuba, because the United States assisted Cuba in remaining free and not in control of the British or the Spanish or Spain. So just a little bit more pictures of some of the former presidents of Cuba. You can see there. And then, Batista took over. And, a lot of people said that Batista was corrupt and all that stuff. And Batista was the type of guy that basically was a businessman. And yeah, there was corruption everywhere. There's corruption today in government and the people there and that are ahead. I mean, they basically control the United States, and they decide what to do in Congress and stuff. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was, in Cuba, it grew, and Cuba grew dramatically. Cuba was basically like the United States back in the 40s and 50s. Free enterprise, people were making money, big business was thriving. People were coming, businesses were investing in Cuba, and Cuba was basically a paradise. All the latest cars were there, and everything was going great. But there were some issues with the Batista when he came in 56. He was, a little bit corrupt. I don't know too much about the corruption involved there, but, the bottom line was that, a young, guy comes in, Fidel Castro, And then, here's a stack of cards that were made. And maybe we'll do a fast break and breakfast here. This is the Cuba's Banditos. These were the bad people of Cuba that took over and basically said that they were going to come in and be for everybody and for the little guy, and everybody was going to be the same. And socialism, it talks a good language, but at the end, and they were the underdogs, so everybody, they rooted for them, and just like, he's for the people, for the people. At the end of the day, 65 years later, Cuba is the poorest country, one of the poorest countries in Latin America, when they were the richest country in Latin America. People are not free. When they took over, they literally put anybody against them in jail or a firing squad. They literally lined people up and just killed them if they didn't agree with the Cuban government. And people like us, my family, who didn't agree with that, had to leave. My dad would have been in jail. And here's Castro talking about all the good things that the socialists are going to do for them. Back in 1964, he had the popular vote because of what he said. And at the end, he was more corrupt, and they were more corrupt than anybody else. And they were the ones that got rich, and they were the ones that took over the country and owned the country. And at the end of the day, Cuba today is one of the poorest country in the world, and this is what the Cuban streets look like today. They have no paint, they have nothing, they have no hope. The people there truly have no hope. They come to this country hoping for freedom, and this is today, how Cuba is today. One of the poorest countries. They have no paint. These cars there are just put together with just wiring and whatever they make the parts because they can't get the cars. These cars were originally there in the 50s. Cuba had everything from the casinos to the, to the latest cars, to the latest, everything that was here in the United States was also in Cuba. And unfortunately, it was just completely ruined by the communists and the communist government. We had some incredible people, incredible singers, just incredible people in Cuba. And unfortunately, we're not able to come to this country or do anything in this country. So just wanted to show you some things from Cuba. This is really a book of musicians from Cuba, but it shows a little bit about how Cuba is today, some pictures of Cuba today, and that's kind of what I wanted to show you. There's a few more in there, but this is El Malacón. This was the main row of hotels. I mean, these were all in the old days brand new, all lighted up, beautiful stuff, and now they're all decrepit, falling apart. There's an old car going through there, and unfortunately, Cuba will never be the same. And let's go and take a look at who the Cuban Banditos were. I found this in some of my dad's stuff. These cards were printed here in the United States, and it talks about all of the people that ruined Cuba, the Banditos. So let's take a look. Number one, the ace is Fidel Castro. Here's some of the other guys. This is the vice president of Council of Ministers. These were all people that really took over the government, and it's the bad people, the communists in Cuba, who many of them are still there. They've been there since 1959, and once they get in the government, once the communists get in the government, There is no vote. There is no actual vote. They decide who goes on the ballot. They decide who votes and who doesn't vote and when they vote. I mean, they basically is another one of the bad guys. And it gets to a point where there is no freedom, there is no democracy, and that's the way it is. Because no matter how bad things are, there is no way for freedom to take over again unless there's a complete revolution. Because the only people that make money in Cuba are the government employees. Everybody else gets rationed. Every business there is owned by the government, even though, you know, they're not allowed to really say much about that. These are all people that really were some of the bad people in the government. And this, I guess, is where we got this from. To order additional plates. So anybody wants to order these? I don't know if they're still there, but these are the wanted people. These are the worst people in the government. And there is Raul Castro, the brother, of course. That's what happens. You get your brothers in there, you get your family in there, you get your friends in the government, and it becomes just a group of socialists and communists. And there is another one of the bad dudes. So these are all the people that took over Cuba. Most of them have passed away. Some of them are still in charge of Cuba. And, you know, when people come here for asylum, a lot of the people, here's another one of the bad dudes. So when people come here for asylum, you know, it's not like, you know, they want a better life here. Yeah, sure, everybody wants a better life, but asylum was asylum back in the days. We came because either, you know, we were going to be put in prison, or we were going to be killed, or we were forced to get out of the country because we didn't believe in their socialist ways. So that's why there's so many people that came to this country and are still coming to this country. But one of the worst is Cuba. And there it is. He was a joker. And that's what they were. They were jokers, and they fooled everybody, and they took over the country. And now they took over all of the businesses, and they control the entire place. The jokers. That's what it is, guys. Hey, appreciate all you watching. Sorry if I got everybody depressed over that, but I wanted to share some of that from my fellow Cuban, Paul and Leah, and just kind of share some of the stuff that we had to go through in Cuba. And that's why I'm so proud. We'll move all of these guys over here. I'm so proud of this government. I'm so glad to be an American and to be free and to be able to speak my mind and say these things that if I was in Cuba today, I would be blackballed, I would be arrested for talking bad about Cuba and recording it on a video. That's life. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your love. Appreciate your friendship, and just I can't tell you how much I love all you guys so much, and so many friends in this community, and Paul's one of them. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you watching. Have an awesome day. This is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. Catch you on the next one.